1 minute smarter, every market clearer. Welcome to my channel, I'm Claire. Imagine a typical morning in 2026. You walk out onto the street and see thousands of Teslas weaving through traffic, but as you look closer, you notice a breathtaking detail. The driver's seats are empty. The owners might be sitting comfortably in the back handling emails or resting with their eyes closed, while the vehicles navigate complex urban road conditions with unprecedented smoothness. It sounds like a scene from a Hollywood sci-fi movie, but I must tell you, according to the predictions of top industry experts, this is the reality we are about to touch. Interestingly, data shows that this prophecy of an autonomous driving Big Bang didn't come from Elon Musk, nor from die-hard Tesla believers. Instead, it comes from a core executive of Tesla's once strongest rival, Oliver Cameron, the former VP of Product at GM's Cruise and current CEO of AI platform Sci. As a veteran who has spent 8 years in the autonomous driving field and personally deployed thousands of robotaxis, Cameron's recent views have sent shockwaves through the industry. He believes Tesla's FSD, full self-driving, is bordering on flawless, and predicts that within a year, millions of cars will achieve true driverless operation through a simple software update. Let's look closely at why this former competitor chose to switch sides at this moment. To understand Cameron's excitement, we have to trace back through the long winter that autonomous driving endured over the past 8 years. Around 2016, sitting in a so-called self-driving car was a nightmare. The vehicle struggled even to drive in a straight line, and the system might go crazy every few miles, either slamming on the brakes on an empty road or inexplicably swerving toward a median. Back then, engineers were stuck in a quagmire known as rule-based systems. They tried to write code using an exhaustive method. If there's a red light, stop. If there's a pedestrian ahead, slow down. But I find this point fascinating. The complexity of the real world is something human programmers can never fully exhaust. What if a pedestrian is walking backward? What if a red light is half hidden by a crooked tree? This hard-coded logic proved clumsy and fragile in the face of reality. This exhaustive approach caused the entire industry to stagnate for 5 years, leading many to assert that driverless technology would never be realized. However, Tesla recently completed a paradigm shift known as end-to-end AI. It no longer passively reads rigid code written by humans. It has evolved into a massive nervous system. This evolution is essentially a qualitative leap from obeying commands to perceiving with intuition. Modern FSD learns like a human by watching millions of videos of experienced human drivers. It no longer puzzles over exactly what a partially obscured red light means. Instead, it has developed a driving instinct through massive amounts of data. I find the sense of elegance reflected in the data to be very profound. It bypasses tedious rule comprehension and directly evolves an instinct for handling complex realities. Cameron remarked that the current FSD behaves like an extremely experienced, even somewhat elegant veteran driver, with a level of decisiveness in complex traffic that is nothing short of astounding. So, if the technology is already so advanced, why haven't we completely let go of the steering wheel? Cameron gives a very specific prediction: 1 year. This timeline seems aggressive because current laws still act as a red line, requiring humans to be ready to take over at any time. But Cameron's logic is that once the safety curve of the technology thoroughly crosses a certain critical point, the walls of law and custom will collapse instantly. Even the most conservative regulators will be unable to refuse the spillover effects of this technology when faced with ironclad data showing it is 10 times safer than human drivers. Behind this lies a dimensionality reduction strike on business models. Interestingly, the data highlights a massive difference between the paths of Waymo, Google's autonomous driving arm, and Tesla. Waymo follows a shared fleet route, which is like building a subway. It's stable, but every vehicle is incredibly expensive, and they must map and deploy sensors city by city. Tesla, meanwhile, is implanting a super brain into millions of cars already on the road. Cameron emphasizes that overnight impact. Tesla doesn't need to lobby every city to open routes. It just needs to push a button in the cloud, and millions of cars worldwide will awaken collectively. You wake up the next morning to find that the car parked downstairs no longer needs you. Here we must discuss the core logic Musk often mentions: 10 billion miles. I find this point highly controversial in terms of methodology, but also highly persuasive. To achieve unsupervised autonomous driving, AI must have seen all the abnormal road conditions in the real world, like a drunk person suddenly dashing out or watermelons spilled all over the road. Cameron believes that logical reasoning alone isn't enough. The AI must have seen enough extreme cases. And 10 billion miles of driving data is the only ticket into the safety zone. Currently, no company in the world other than Tesla possesses such a massive stream of real-world data. This comparison is brutal. While traditional automakers are still running simulations in labs, Tesla is already absorbing real nourishment from global roads. If an AI hasn't seen the complexity revealed in those 10 billion miles, it will inevitably make mistakes when facing never-before-seen edge cases. Cameron stated bluntly that Tesla has run so far ahead on the data path that those chasing from behind can't even see its taillights. Speaking of which, I have to share an industry insider secret: the truth about disengagement rates. In the news, we often see car companies boasting about how many miles their cars can drive before requiring human intervention. But as a former Cruise executive, Cameron directly exposed this emperor's new clothes. He believes the disengagement rate is a completely useless, subjective metric. Interestingly, he pointed out that takeover behavior is heavily influenced by the tester's nerves. A brave one waits until a near collision to intervene, while a timid one takes over at the slightest wobble. Worse yet, if a driver is playing on their phone and fails to intervene even when an accident is imminent, does that prove the system is safe? I find this point deeply engaging. Truly professional companies look internally at 10,000-fold simulation deductions. They take the data from the moment of intervention back to the server and run it 10,000 times in a computer to see if an accident would have actually happened without the takeover. It is precisely because Cameron has seen this deeper logic that he dares to define Tesla's system as flawless. Next, let's dive into the ultimate battle of business philosophies between Tesla and Waymo. Cameron compares Waymo to a finely crafted work of art, with its roof packed with expensive LiDAR. But this brings a fatal financial constraint. The cost of one LiDAR setup is almost equivalent to an entire Tesla Model 3. Waymo's sharing model can amortize costs through 24-hour operation, but average private car owners simply cannot afford it. Musk was forced into an extreme, vision-only solution. If humans can drive using only 2 eyes, why can't AI? This is not just a technical choice. It's a massive gamble. He must squeeze the absolute limit out of algorithms to make a few $100 camera perform like a multi-thousand-dollar radar. Cameron predicts that Waymo will eventually have to concede because the scale of a shared fleet can never compete with the scale effects of millions of private cars. Moreover, from a human perspective, people have a strong desire for private space. No one wants to see a coffee stain left by a previous passenger. People want a mobile space that belongs to them. However, the road to perfection is not without its shadows. A story Cameron shared is quite poignant. Sometimes the biggest challenge for autonomous driving isn't technology, but human malice. During his time at Cruise, he found that when no one is in the car, the darker side of human nature is released. People would intentionally jump in front of the car to see if it dared to hit them. Some would spray paint the car body, and others would even put tape over the sensors. If hundreds of thousands of cars are interfered with by passersby in the future, this social interaction will be a nightmare that no algorithm is prepared for. In these blind moments, do we really just watch the car become paralyzed? Here we should clarify a long-running joke: the claim that the back end of autonomous driving is just a group of people in India driving remotely. Cameron used internal data to reveal the truth. It is actually a highly efficient 1-100 remote verification system. When a driverless car encounters an uncertain situation, like a giant cardboard box in the middle of the road, It sends a signal to the backend. Options A, B, and C pop up on the operator's screen: bypass, wait, or reverse. The operator just needs to click the mouse once, and the car completes the rest of the action on its own. It is this exponential drop in management costs that makes large-scale deployment economically viable. If autonomous driving is just the first step for AI, then the world models Cameron is currently researching might be the destination. I find this concept crucial for understanding the future. Current ChatGPT understands linguistic logic but doesn't necessarily understand physical laws. A world model, however, allows AI to teach itself physics by watching massive amounts of video. For example, if you show the AI a photo of a ball in midair, it can predict where it will land 5 seconds later without any formulas. That is physical intuition. In autonomous driving, this means it can anticipate a child possibly dashing out based on shadows in an alley and slow down in advance. Even more sci-fi is Cameron's prediction that future screens will no longer have code, only pixel generation. You could tell a computer, "Create 1920s London in the rain for me," and the AI will generate all interactive interfaces in real time. This could be used not only to train robots to fold clothes, but could even replace mobile operating systems. You would no longer need to download apps. The AI would directly generate an interactive interface based on your needs. Finally, we must face the heaviest and most controversial topic: regulation and ethics. Mainstream public opinion always fixates on every minor accident involving autonomous driving, but Cameron poses a soul-searching question. Is the current human driving environment actually safe? Cold data shows that car accidents remain the leading cause of death for children worldwide. Every moment, families are shattered because of a single human distraction, fatigue, or drunk driving incident. Cameron expressed great indignation at this. He believes that those extremely conservative institutions trying to indefinitely delay the implementation of autonomous driving are, in essence, signing death warrants for lives that could have been saved. He singled out some mainstream media outlets, arguing that the argument that human-driven deaths are acceptable while machines must be zero risk is profoundly stupid and arrogant. I find that his perspective provides a dual lens. In an era of technological explosion, measuring new speeds with old logic is itself the most dangerous act. When millions of Teslas awaken overnight, and when AI begins to understand the physical world we know will cease to exist. Perhaps one day, looking back at 2026, we will be amazed that humans once wasted their most precious lives on such mechanically repetitive and high-risk driving tasks. By then, manual driving might become a retro sport like horseback riding, and we are currently witnessing the reshaping of how we interact with the physical world. What are your thoughts on the future of autonomous driving? Feel free to leave your reflections in the comments. See you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to stay tuned. I always appreciate your feedback, so drop a comment below. Thanks for listening, and catch you later.